Alright, hey y'all, figured come on live. I just got out of work, so I'll try and keep this really quick because I want to get on the road before traffic gets too bad. Um, where I work, where I live, traffic kind of gets unbearable after 3 o'clock if you're on the road after 3. So I will try and keep this short. But I wanted to get on and go over a few things that are going on in the world today, and then more get back into something God kind of showed. Hey, Brother Jack, well, a better day at work. I'm glad to be gone, though. I'm not going to lie. Of course, I always look forward to being away from work. But I did want to get on and share something that God has kind of been teaching me this weekend, and figured if I can use it, so can others. Um, but there's a lot that's kind of been going on. It looks like God did not intercede, and He has allowed this new coalition to be sworn in to run Israel. I'll get into that in a minute. But then some other things that I saw in the news today that was kind of interesting. So there's a big article saying that expectations for inflation for next year surge to record highs. Kind of goes along with the point of what I, as well as other watch, because that's where I get my info from sometimes. What a lot of the watchmen and watchwomen have been saying is that inflation is coming, and now we're having, main media that's going on, and then they're coming out saying, hey, you know what, expect record, before my phone overheats, expect record inflation. Not surprising at all. Again, in order to usher in a one world currency, more specifically cryptocurrency, the world economy's got to tank. So no surprise there. California came out and said that they are under emergency drought. So they're having a drought as some of their lakes and whatnot, bodies of water are under halfway. So their California leadership is put in a state of emergency for an emergency drought. Then, of course, news is just full of nothing but mass shootings, and most of them are over stupid shit. Sorry to say it, but it's exactly what it is, stupid shit. And then one thing, so going back to this Israel thing, I found it very interesting how can I say this? How some current leadership, I say that, took over a month to call the former prime minister of Israel when he took office, and Israel happens to be one of our closest allies. Yet it took him over a month for him to make that call to one of our closest allies. And yet when this new coalition was sworn in on Sunday by, our leader was very quick to send a phone call congratulating them. If that doesn't tell you everything that you need to know, I find it very interesting, and I think very eye-opening how he was doing that. Took forever to call when the former prime minister was running Israel, but immediately took to the new coalition. Go figure, right? But I was a little surprised, as I was saying earlier, I was a little surprised that God didn't intercede and he allowed this coalition to take over. And two things were brought to mind. First of all, Daniel 2:21, and actually it's 21 through 23, but 2:21 specifically. Daniel 2 is about Nebuchadnezzar having a dream. Long story short, he tells all of his, advisors and witchcraft and all these, sing-song, hoo-ha, whatever people. I want you to tell me what my dream meant, because it really bothered him. But you also have to tell me what my dream was. So he obviously didn't want to be fed a bunch of BS. And of course, he said, if you don't, then I'm going to tear your houses down to rubble and I'm going to kill you, cut you into pieces. So of course they begged him, no, tell us your dream, tell us. Nope, you got to tell me what the dream is and then tell me what it means. So long story short, Daniel ends up hearing about it. He begs the King Nebuchadnezzar for some time. Nebuchadnezzar grants it. Daniel goes before the Lord, asks him, hey, can you show me what it was that King Nebuchadnezzar dreamt, and then show me, the meaning of it. And sure enough, God answered his prayer. And when Daniel woke up in the morning after receiving the dream and then the revelation of what the dream meant, he basically just started praising God for it. And that's what verse 21 through 23 is Daniel praising God for giving him the answer and answering Daniel's prayers. But Daniel 2:21 basically talks about changing how God's the one that changes the seasons, and then he removes and seats kings. And when I was thinking about the coalition, that was just a verse God kept bringing to my head. Hey, I change the seasons, I remove and I seat kings. And we saw that in 2016. Everybody in the twin sister thought for sure, HC, I'll say that. You don't know what I'm talking about, then Google it. HC was going to win the election. Everybody in the twin sister thought. But then, everybody woke up in the morning and voila, she had lost. Again, God, that was obvious sign, move on God. He did not want that woman leading the country, and he made sure it did not happen. And then on top of that, her own party later said, that's it, you're never running for us again. That was your chance, you're done. So God, completely put an end to that woman ever getting, political office. Good thing for us. What his reasons are, I don't know. We may never know on this side of heaven. And then the other thing that he kept bringing to mind and was Proverbs 3, 5 through 6, where it says, trust the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. And that's more, along with, when we think about the coalition, and wondering, well, how could God allow this group of people to lead his country? Again, he removes kings and he sets new ones in their place. I mean, every leader does not come into leadership without God's, say so. So that's where we have to trust God. And then that's where he really kind of kicked me in the nards, because I've got an over-analytical mind. I mean, my brain is just overanalyzes everything. I mean, I will sit there if I'm by myself and my brain's just analyzing everything going throughout the entire day, saying, if I'd done this, maybe if I'd done this different, then what would have happened? And I'll go through the whole entire day of what the entire day would have been different had I done, this one thing. And I'll do that throughout my whole day. I mean, and then, if it runs out of that to think about, then I think about all kinds of crazy-ass things. But I've got a very over-analytical mind. And I say that because with my brains, I want answers. I want to understand things. It's just the way that I am. I want to understand why things are the way that they are. I want to understand how they. And now, when it comes to mechanical things, not so much. But as far as life, the world, people, stuff like that. I want to understand how they work. But the thing to remember is, and why we don't understand like this coalition, we also don't have the view that God has. What do I mean by that? It doesn't matter how caught up on current events that you are. Okay, I'm pretty caught up on current events. Well, as much as I like. Well, yeah, the news nowadays is just almost unreadable. But even someone like me who tries keeping up on current events, we don't even get a mustard seed shot of what God has. Why? Because God sees everything, even the dirtiest, darkest secrets that are held by only God knows who, and the most remote places about only God knows what. God's overhearing those conversations. He's overhearing every conversation that ever happens, along with every movement of every person on the face of this planet at any given time. He sees it all at once. He hears it all, he knows it all, he sees it all. On top of that, he also sees and knows and hears the spiritual side. So while it may seem like chaos to us and something that, like, man, I don't get it, well, that's the whole point. Because we don't see things the way that God sees things. We don't hear the things that God hears, and we definitely don't have the understanding that God has. I mean, he created all of this. So all right, sorry about that. I didn't even have my phone plugged in. I was holding it, wasn't even in the sun, and the thing still overheated. I tell you what, when the devil doesn't want you speaking truth, he will definitely make sure that something happens to interrupt it. But these interruptions are starting to become a real pain in the ass. But anyways, as I was saying, because I'm not going to let him win, as I was saying, with God having created everything, and God seeing, hearing everyone, everything, physical and in the spiritual, to what seems like chaos to us, to him is just a steady flow and movement, and none of it's happening outside of his control. So that's what I think when he says, trust the Lord with all thy heart and lean not on your own understanding. Because if we try figuring out what's going on, our understanding of everything, we don't have all the information. We don't have the clear picture. We don't have all the information that God does. So even when things look bleak, like a coalition government leading his people, or our own issues with our own leaders, not always is it our job to understand why God lets this stuff happen. Okay? If we trust the Lord with all our heart, then we have to trust that what he's doing and what he's allowing is for a purpose. That's why we don't lean on our own understanding. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct you with kicking the nards to me. And I realize, yeah, you're right, God. I'm not always going to understand, I just have to trust you. And all I can say is, at least looking at this, I don't think with the last prime minister it would have been as easy for AC to come into play. Now pretty much, as I said in past video, pretty much every main government in the world is now a left-leaning globalist type government, which is easy for AC. And why we think it's messed up, again, God sees, knows, hears all, and to him it makes complete sense, and we just have to trust him. So I just wanted to come on and encourage you guys with that. I know I needed it, and if I needed it, hopefully somebody else did too. Meanwhile, I'm going to get on the road before I hit traffic too bad. And if we are still here, because I don't know how much longer that we got, I really don't. But if we are still here, I'll see you on the next video.